Tell you what, the Historic Trails Award is something very unique. Um, as you can see here, MacD would like to know more information about historic trails, medals, and all the different things. Scouts, we love to go outdoors. We love to go hiking, and a lot of neat trails out there. Battlefields and different places, scenic views. It is gorgeous and highly recommended. Trails are wonderful. And some of them are kind of remote, but some of them are not as remote you might think. So looking into some of the historic trails that are out there is very rewarding as a unit. This should be something that comes up in your annual planning. You need to set up some hikes and some activities so that you can achieve this wonderful award. Now, this can be sewn onto the back of the sash, the merit badge sash for the youth. There are also backpack, I believe they're made of leather, that can actually be put on backpacks. So it's an insignia of this award. I'll put up a picture of it. So that's what it looks like. But this award is great. It only has 3 requirements, and we're going to talk about those requirements. But putting this in your plan with your unit is very important. Cub Scouts can also work on these things. Not as intense. They might not be able to do the 5 to 20 mile hike that's needed to do the award, but kind of getting them aware of it. I think that's important, especially for Webelos and Aerolites. They need to be able to see these things, and then when they're in Scouts, in a troop, then they can actually participate and do them. So that's something that that Cub Scouts can do. And briefly, real brief show note. If you're in Cub Scouts and you don't watch the Scouts BSA videos, that's not the way to do this, okay? Because I'm telling the Scouts BSA people and the Cub Scouts they should watch all the videos. You're going to be involved in it in some way. So definitely that's a show note, okay? So you now know. Now, the Historic Trails Award, it's important to understand that this award is usually earned as a unit. The entire troop participates at all 3 of the requirements. The first requirement is very simple. You must locate a historical trail or an area that has a trail. This is something that you have to actually explore, okay, in your area, outside of your area. If you're living in Florida, like I do, there's Georgia and there's Alabama and there's South. There's all different places you can go. You don't have to be trapped in your local area. It's okay if you're living in the area where there's a historical trail. This is a natural. This is something you should be doing. And this is something you want to leave for the Scouts to actually look them up. And there is links in this video down below that has a list by state, and you can actually go in and see those different trails and visit the councils that sponsor those trails. That's all a link, and this is the national website of all of the historic trails. Definitely look for that link. Now keep in mind, this is all a part of your planning. When you do your annual planning, you want to make sure that this has been defined, and that you make sure that you put it on the schedule. Hikes are wonderful things. We need to support that. It's very healthy, getting out, fresh air, seeing the environment, learning stuff from the trail. There are different trails that have different lessons to teach, and that's critical. It's okay if the unit decides to do a trail versus another. That's what the unit should decide. That is one of the beautiful things about planning and getting that started. But doing the research, that's kind of the first requirement here. The next big requirement is you actually have to do this for 2 days and 1 night. You need to camp overnight near the trail or off the trail. That is in the vicinity. The requirement is very open. There are some trails you cannot camp overnight on, and that has to be part of that plan. As part of that research, it's kind of like number one. You have to get that research done to find out what you can and cannot do on that trail. There are some trails, it's pack it in, pack it out. I mean, that might be hard for some units. So it is very something that you need to consider when you're dealing with a hike, when you're going on these hikes. You need to make sure that your research is done, but you need to do those 2 days of hiking and 1 night. And that can be done over a weekend. That's totally fine. Now, in regards to that requirement, you don't have to be you need to be in the vicinity, okay, overnight. And that's just 1 night, 2 days hike, 1 night. The night that you stay over could be at a YMCA's gym. Okay, you could do a sleep-in kind of thing. You could do that, but as long as it's within the vicinity of it, it qualifies. So some trails don't allow any kind of camping overnight. You go down that trail and that's it. Okay, and it could be that it's a 1-day trail. So you may have to get 2 trails to get the 2 days. Or if it's a 1-day trail, you walk it back the next day. 1 day out overnight and 1 day back. So there's ways you can work that out, and that has a lot to do with the planning. So as adult leaders, we need to focus our youth on making sure they can get that requirement done. Now, the third and final requirement for this award is to work with a historical society group and develop something for them, some benefit to them for the trail. Now, this could be clearing an area so that there isn't forest fire or something, and getting the wood out to the road so it can be picked up and removed. So there's a lot of service projects that can be done on these trails, and you need to work with the Historic Society or the people that are in charge of that. Don't just go out there and do it. Okay, you can get in a lot of trouble. Make sure that you're working with the Historical Society and getting that done. Now, you can also, as a unit, get some publicity, get some awareness into the community through all the different medias that are out there. That is something that can also be done, and kind of promote the trail. These trails, many of them have bicycle trails. Many of them are just hiking. So this is knowledge that needs to be conveyed to the general public. So this is another option on requirement 3. Now, once the 3 requirements are completed, the unit leader needs to fill out the application for the Historic Trails Award. And then that is submitted to the Council's Service Center for processing. I believe that once that has been accepted and approved, then at that point, the ribbon, usually is a ribbon that's given to the troop that you can get and put on the flag, and then everybody in the unit that was part of achieving that award would be eligible to get the patch, which has the, I'll put it up here. They'll be able to put this patch on the back of their sash. That's some place to display it. They can also wear it as a temporary patch. That's totally fine. And it's important that we recognize these things. These trails are gifts that America has to give to its citizens, to Scouts. Okay? These are great assets that we need to take advantage of. These trails are out there. They're all over the United States. I highly encourage you to go to the description below, hit the little more thing, and then that has links in there that you can actually go directly to the national site where it lists all the different trails, and their contact information is in there. It's great. So definitely do this. This is something that's doable. This is a gift. This is America's gift. All that history and not only just history, beautiful places. There's some seaside stuff that's incredible. You need to take advantage of it and get out there. You know, put the out and scout. Get out and do these trails. These trails are wonderful. Medal or no medal, you know, ward or no ward. It's important that we do them. And you don't have to do them just once. You can do them every year, okay? Or twice a year. So it depends on your unit. The scouts make the determination. So you need to be able, as a scout leader, to put all that information in front of them and let them decide. You know, doing that award, doing these things. It's so incredibly important. Talk a little bit about the historian, the troop historian of your troop. This is something that a lot of troops kind of miss out on. They don't have one. And because of that, it is history that's well worth learning and knowing about that's lost forever. It's a critical position, and it's often overlooked. This is one of those positions that if you don't have enough scouts, you kind of just leave it. Sometimes, worse, they make this a part of the scribe's duties. And that's not good because that puts more stress on a critical position also. So, troop historian is responsible for all kinds of really important things. It's important to keep that in mind when dealing with the historian. They're there to document who was the senior patrol leader, who was the patrol leader of every patrol, how was things happening in the current situation. Now all of that also has to be put with a logbook or something like that of the past so that there's a continuing history that goes on with that unit. The troop historian is actually responsible for documenting things that are going on. Camping trips, canoe trips, high adventure, all of those things. Who went on those events? Who went where? That is something that the historian keeps track of. That is very important. Any significant changes in leadership, that needs to be reported. I know of units that are over 100 years old, and they know every single scoutmaster. They can literally have that history. That's amazing. That's a beautiful thing when you can have a unit that knows their past. That is just so neat. The historian should use video and photographs and all those kinds of things. Now this is kept in-house. This is not really something that's out in the public eye. There are some youth protection issues when you're dealing with youth and identifying those youth by photographs or video. So there's some youth protection stuff that needs to be reviewed. There's assistant scoutmasters that help the historian making sure that that stuff stays secure. This information, like a logbook or information or videos or photographs of events, things that they're doing, service projects, all of it, that all needs to be kept in-house but available for people in the unit so that they can actually use that at presentations, at different events. And if there's a significant date, that needs to be historically documented. These are great things. And we live in a country full of history, beautiful history, some tragic history too. So that's the thing that the historian needs to cover. Now, there are some things like changing of chartered organization that should also be documented. And those things can be documented without any kind of political type of thing going on there. They're just the facts. We were here, now we're here. Leave it simple. History should have some of that in there, so that they can kind of understand why those changes happened. So you can state why. That's fine, but don't try to edit in any kind of agenda things. Okay, you got to be very independent. It's almost like being a reporter, right? You have to tell both sides of the story. So that is very important when you're documenting your history. There are two sides to everything, right? So it's important that the historian sees that too. There are a lot of milestones that need to be observed and recorded. And that's something that your historian should do. Say, for instance, you go to a camporee. That's a record. You have a record attendance. That's a record. That's a historic thing that you need to put in there. These are things that can be put down very easily. They win an award for best campsite or best gate put up at the camporee. These are historical things. Here are some photographs of that. It's kind of the story of the unit and all the scouts and scouters in that unit. That is so important. The historic stuff needs to be documented, and all those milestones need to be there. The historian, that job, is so critical for telling the story of your unit. All of the past and all the great things that they've achieved. I have been in units that had ribbons from 40 years ago. Nobody knows what camp out it was at, who it was for, or what it was for. But there's a ribbon, and it's got, a year on it from 40 years ago. That's what a historian should have. They should have a logbook that's handed down from historian to historian. That's a historical thing. This information is important. I'll tell you why. The historian is the one that answers questions. For instance, if you're giving a presentation, you want to know how many recipients have received that award. Your historian should have that information. That's something that's important. Your historian is also there to promote your troop. That's the wonderful thing. That if you're going to a recruitment, the historian might have displays or videos or photographs or things that the unit has done. That's very appealing for parents and for scouts, young people getting into scouting. That's a great thing for them to see and enjoy, so that they want to be a part of that too. That's the wonderful thing. Be a part of history. Get them involved. Get the historian out there and get those. They see all that great stuff, and that makes them want to be involved in your unit. So these are great little ways to promote your unit in using your successful history. Scrapbooking and photo albums are a great way to document different things. Campouts, different kinds of events, awards. They can be scrapbooks that can actually work with eagle ceremonies, different courts of honor. That's a really good record to have. Having those records, the historical records, is so important. And having them visually is so incredible. I remember doing a recruiting where the historian had a scrapbook of what they had done at summer camp. Incredible. All the different merit badges and all the different things, the mountain that they climbed, all the different, the cope system. It was exciting to watch. And I've even seen videos from the historian of what they did at summer camp. Incredible. Okay, so these are very important things. Now, one of the big projects that a historian might take on is interviewing veterans of your unit, of the actual troop. They were with the troop, and then they moved on. You know, they got their career or moved away and all that stuff. Doing telephone interviews, video interviews, those are great to actually communicate. And now that we're post-pandemic, we're actually all super experts at the Zoom type of thing. Okay. We all are, and that's the neat thing. We could easily do that with alumni, and those would be great presentations to present at a troop meeting, at a recruitment. These are great things to have in your quiver as far as your history, to have that available so that you can use that at different events. So important. Historical displays at events. This is something that a lot of historians do. And this could be as simple as a Eagle ceremony. It could be at a court of honor. These are great, threefold things that you could put up with all the latest things that the historian has been working on. Videos that could be played, before the event, or even during the event. There's different things that can be done. The historian can be involved in a lot of the presenting of that information. It is so important that we not forget our history. So many units out there. There's so many. And they have fascinating histories. They have alumni from that unit, the veterans of that troop, that are desiring that information. They want to know what happened. It's like being part of a story, and then as soon as your story rolls on to your own, there's what happened to the rest of them. That's the key. That's what the historian can do. The troop historian is extremely important. Maybe not now, but much later and in the past. That information needs to be kept track of. And your troop historian, maybe even a historic team, you could get several scouts involved in being that troop historian, in that team working together to come up with incredible documentation. Sometimes you have to forensically go back and kind of figure out who was Scoutmaster 30 years ago, from records or a very illegible signature or something like that. There's stuff that the historian can actually research on, find out what was, manpower, what was that kind of ribbon for, so, that's something that a historian could look back at. Look at all the patches from the past. There's so many things they can do, and it's so important for your troop. If you don't, let's talk a little bit about the slogan, do a good turn daily. Let's talk about it. This is a huge part of scouting. Now, almost every scout and scouters knows about doing a good turn every day. And this can be small, but it ends up being huge. It is a huge thing about what scouting really is about. It is important that we, as adults, make sure that the youth understand that little things add up. Little good deeds add up to being really a big deal. There are service projects, whether it be food drives or conservation. There's a lot of different service projects, and those are good turns to the community also. But really doing it on a daily basis, those big things can't be done like that. It would be nice, but it's a lot of planning and structure, and a lot of things go on with those big projects. What I'm talking about is the essence of doing good turns for others every day. Now, scouting actually started in the United States. It caught on because of a journalist, Du Bois, was in England. and was guided by a scout to the national or international office of scouting in London. This was during when it was real foggy and stuff. And it turns out that he wanted to pay this scout for helping him get there. And the scout refused it, saying that it was his good turn. He was so impressed by this that he sat and interviewed Mr. General, I think at the time, Baden-Powell, and talked about the scouting movement, a new thing. And this really hit the boys, and he wanted that to come back to the States, to the United States, and really start Boy Scouts of America. That was where it all started from. This one simple good turn that a scout in England did. Now, one of the big things that we need to think about with our own scout units is start having scouts talk about their good turns. This becomes an epidemic of an idea that they can actually participate and try to do good turns. There's a lot of good turns that scouts can do every single day, whether it be at home, at school. If they're just starting off in the work world, they could start there. Just walking around home, they could do these good turns. Helping them develop this habit of doing good turns. Say, for instance, they're out for a walk and there's a candy bar wrapper in their path. Almost to every scout and scouters, they would just naturally, without even thinking about it, pick it up and put it in their pocket so when they're near a trash can, they can throw it away. That is a good turn, but it should be done normally throughout and not necessarily demanded. It's not expected. It's not like there's one candy bar wrapper, they pick that up, and the rest of them they just leave. It just becomes a habit to do these things as a good turn. Helping others is important because it is the third promise of the Scout Oath, to help others at all times. If you see somebody struggling with a door or lifting groceries from the car or something of that nature, if they're struggling with that, going to help them is important. To help others at all times, whether it be a family member or a stranger. You're there to help. And that's true even for your community. So that if you see trash laying around, put it away. Put it away in its proper place. If you see something going on, like ducks crossing the road, and you need to go out there and stop the cars so that they can go across the road to the lake, that's something that scouts and scouters do. It's for the betterment of the community. That's what's so important. That is a huge thing that we do in scouting. And when we do that, we build character. We actually build people that when they do become leaders, you want to follow. You're building that character. You know that they are in it and they are going to win it because they are doing these good turns for others. There are so many other subtle ways that a scout or a scouter could do a good turn. If they see something that needs to be done, they just do it. They just take care of it. They don't leave those multiple dishes in the sink. They actually rinse them, put them in the dishwasher, or even clean them. That might be something that they do. And it's just, it's like something happened, and it happened. That's one of those things. For instance, a scout was often talking about when his mom gets a phone call, she gets really into it and she goes off into the other room and doesn't remember that she has laundry that's being done. Well, as soon as the buzzer goes off, the scout would run over and move them from the washer into the dryer. that's a good turn. So there's little things that are subtle. And it's not just once a day. You could do it multiple times. That's totally okay. It becomes a part of what a scout does. It's how scouting people live. Now, doing a good turn helps the scout and scouter actually develop good practices of how to help others, whether it be family, community, wherever. That is the key. It helps them develop that personal skill. It helps them actually develop empathy for others. And in so doing, they also get responsibility and gain those leadership skills that we in scouting so desperately try to teach. That is so important. Now, there is a positive effect to doing a good turn, not only to your local area, but your entire community. When they see scouts in uniform doing service projects, whether it be scouting for food or a conservation project, they see scouts, they get a better idea of what scouting is really about. And that is something that we need to do in uniform so that they can identify that uniform with scouting and what they're doing as a service to the community. That is very important. A good turn is often not recognized or rewarded. And for instance, when scouting was first inspired, the scout that guided Du Bois to the International Scout Office in London refused to tip, did not want to invalidate his good turn. This is done from the heart. And that's what's interesting about developing this culture of doing good turns. There are good turn badges and awards and things like that for units that do service projects. That's something that is out there. But normally, the good turn that's done every day, that's it. It's just done every single day. Now, before we go any further, I do want to invite you to our monthly meeting. It's on the first Sunday of each month, and it's at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So you're more than welcome to join us and ask questions and just have fun. You know, that's one of those wonderful things about that meeting. I also want to thank everybody on Patreon for their continued support of our channel. And our channel members. You can be a channel member. You hit the join button and join up. There's all kinds of badges and emojis and different things. They even get the videos exclusively for themselves, ad-free, which is an added bonus. And then, of course, if you don't want to join in and do a monthly donation, you could always do a one-time donation by hitting the thanks button. So get involved. I really do appreciate all that you do in scouting and here on the channel. Now, it's also very important to keep track of your service projects, conservation projects, those kinds of things for Journey to Excellence. That is very important, that there are service projects that the unit does as a good turn to the community. That is very important to keep track of whatever hours, cumulative hours, that are towards that community service. It might be good to even have the historian actually take photographs and record a lot of those units' good turn projects that they do. That will also set up a historic archive of what they can actually look back on and maybe do again, because a lot of these things can be done repeatedly throughout the years. Now, whether it be a coin or a card or something they can keep in their pocket and then switch over to the other pocket to remind them that they've done their good turn, these are things that are there, but they may not move that coin or card to the other pocket. You know, one good turn is not enough. You can do many in a period of time. Now, if you have some kind of internet thing with your unit, the troop, pack, crew, whatever, if you have something that's electronic, maybe that would be a good place for your youth members and the scout leaders too to actually log in a single sentence like, I did the dishes, that kind of thing. I held the door for my neighbor. Those are really good turns. That is something that you may want to implement into your website that has that database on there. That would be awesome. Now keep it exclusive. You don't you want to just have that just for other scouts and scouters to see, so that they can kind of get the clue that you need to be doing this on a regular basis. You might even have the scouts, especially the new ones that have just crossed over, write them down. That's a good idea. If you're a guide for a new scout patrol, have them start writing down, all the good turns that they do throughout the week, so that on a weekly basis they can kind of go over those. It's a great way to get them thinking about it and start doing it automatically. I also would like to know what your good turn was today. So put it in the comments of this video. I know that there's going to be a bunch, okay? But if you have a question, you got to use the question mark. And that way I know that I need to reply. But I just want to know what you did for your good turn. This is a challenge for you. So definitely put it in the comments of the video of what you did for your good turn today. Now, we do so much work with our scouts. And as scout leaders, we need to make sure that they pick up some of these good habits. And we need to keep up that good work, right? And it is amazing how the do a good turn daily, it has become such a major part of scouting. And you, as a scout leader, are doing a good turn for America in many ways, because you are helping with your scouting unit. And I'm so very proud that you do so much work for them. And, of course, this channel too. So, and I'm really appreciative. But definitely keep up that good, hard work. And if you would like more information about how scouting started, I've got a Scouting 101. It's like beginning basics. It's right over here. Check it out. It talks about the beginning. Until next time, I'll see you on the trail.